Good morning, everyone. Or not everyone. Let's talk about failure. That thing we all fear. That moment when everything you planned, worked for, and dreamed it crumbles. It hurts. It embarrasses. It makes you question yourself. And it stays with you, whispering, maybe you're not good enough. But here's the truth, failure does not define you. What defines you is what you do after. Do you stand up? Do you try again? Do you learn? Because success isn't about never falling, it's about refusing to stay down. Every person you admire, every story that inspires you, is built on failure. Look at the inventors, the leaders, the artists, they all failed. Repeatedly. But they didn't stop. They took failure, learned from it, and turned it into fuel. Think about it. How many times have you doubted yourself because of one bad outcome? One mistake, one rejection. You convince yourself that you're not cut out for something. But have you ever considered that maybe, just maybe, failure is a sign that you're on the right path? That it's testing you to see how badly you want it. You will fail. That's guaranteed. But what's also guaranteed is your ability to rise again. And when you do, when you push past the doubts and the disappointments, you'll see that failure wasn't the enemy, it was the teacher. The problem isn't failure. It's how we see failure. We treat it as the end of the road, when really it's just a detour. The greatest success stories were written by people who failed first, the ones who kept going, the ones who refused to let a bad moment define a lifetime. So the next time you fall, don't ask, why me? Instead ask, what's next? Because failure is not your identity, it's just a step on the way to something greater. And who knows? Maybe years from now, you'll look back at your failures and realize they were never failures at all, just the beginning of your greatest success. Too often we let failure stick to us like a name tag, as if it permanently defines who we are. One bad test, one rejected job application, one missed opportunity, and suddenly we start believing we're not smart enough, not talented enough, not good enough. But failure is not a label. It doesn't define your worth, your potential, or your future. It's simply a lesson, a rough draft, not the final version of your story. Think about when you learned to walk as a child. You didn't get it right the first time. You fell over and over, but no one called you a failure. They clapped, encouraged you, and waited for you to try again. That's because failure, in its purest form, is growth in action. It's proof that you are trying, learning, and improving. Every mistake, every setback, every rejection carries a lesson if you're willing to see it. Did you prepare enough? Do you need to change your approach? Is there a skill you need to improve? Failure isn't a stop sign. It's a road sign pointing you in the right direction. Some of the most successful people in history were told they weren't good enough. They were laughed at, doubted, and rejected, but they didn't let failure define them. They let it refine them. They studied their mistakes, adjusted their course, and kept moving forward. So the next time you fail, don't wear it like a badge of shame. Treat it as a stepping stone. Learn from it, grow from it, and remind yourself that failure is not a label you carry, it's just a lesson that makes you stronger. We love to celebrate success. We admire the billionaires, the world champions, the pioneers who changed history. But what we don't always see is the path they took to get there, the rejection letters, the failed experiments, the sleepless nights filled with doubt. The truth is, every great success story is built on failure. Failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of it. It's the rough foundation that every achievement stands on. Behind every breakthrough, there are countless setbacks. Behind every victory, there are painful defeats. What separates the successful from the forgotten is not talent or luck, it's resilience. Think of Thomas Edison, who failed over 1,000 times before perfecting the light bulb. When asked about his failures, he didn't see them as wasted efforts. He famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That mindset is why we have electric lights today. Or consider Michael Jordan, widely regarded as one of the greatest basketball players of all time. He was cut from his high school basketball team. Imagine if he had let that failure define him. Instead, he used it as motivation, practicing harder than ever, and went on to become a legend. He later said, "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over again, and that is why I succeed." Then there's J.K. Rowling, who was rejected by 12 different publishers before Harry Potter became a worldwide phenomenon. She was jobless, broke, and struggling to provide for her child. But she didn't give up. She turned her failures into fuel. And today, millions of people around the world have been inspired by the magic she created. These stories aren't exceptions, they're the rule. If you dig deep enough, you'll find that behind every success is someone who failed, but refused to stop. So, if you're facing failure right now, if things aren't going your way, if you feel like giving up, remember this, you're in the middle of your success story. The setbacks, the struggles, the moments of doubt, they're just the first few chapters. Keep going, keep learning, keep pushing, because one day you'll look back and realize that every failure was just building something bigger, your success story. Life will throw challenges at you. People will doubt you. Circumstances may seem unfair. You'll face failure, rejection, and moments where you feel completely lost. But here's the thing, you control the narrative of your life, not your failures, not other people's opinions, not even the setbacks you face. You decide what your story will be. Every great story has moments of struggle. Every hero faces obstacles. But what makes a hero isn't what happens to them, it's how they respond. Do they give up or do they rise again? Do they let failure define them or do they rewrite their story? The truth is, most people let the world write their narrative for them. They let society, fear, or past mistakes decide who they are. They accept labels like not smart enough, not talented enough, or not lucky enough. But the moment you stop accepting those labels is the moment you take back control. I think of the most inspiring people in history, leaders, innovators, artists. They didn't let failure or circumstances dictate their stories. They rewrote the script. Oprah Winfrey was told she wasn't fit for television. Steve Jobs was fired from his own company. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. Imagine if they had let those moments define their stories. Instead, they took control. They turned their setbacks into comebacks. And so can you. Right now, you have the power to choose. You can let failure be the end of your story, or you can make it the turning point. You can let fear hold you back, or you can step forward with courage. You can let people's doubts shape you, or you can prove them wrong. The pen is in your hands. The story is yours to tell. What will you write? We live in a world that glorifies perfection, flawless performances, straight A students, untouchable success stories. But the truth is, perfection is an illusion. No one gets everything right all the time. No one walks through life without making mistakes. What truly separates those who succeed from those who give up isn't perfection, it's resilience. Resilience is the ability to get back up when you fall. It's the ability to keep moving forward even when things go wrong. While perfection crumbles under pressure, resilience adapts, learns, and grows. Think about it, the most successful athletes aren't the ones who never lose, they're the ones who keep training after every defeat. The greatest entrepreneurs aren't the ones who never fail, they're the ones who refuse to quit. The strongest people you know aren't the ones who've had an easy life, they're the ones who faced struggle and kept going. Perfection makes you afraid to try. It makes you fear mistakes, avoid risks, and second-guess yourself. But resilience sets you free. It allows you to take chances, to fail without breaking, and to chase your dreams without fear of falling. So forget about being perfect. Forget about getting everything right on the first try. Instead, focus on being resilient. Because in the end, it's not about how many times you fall, it's about how many times you rise. Failure is painful, sure, it stings, it embarrasses, and it can shake your confidence. But do you know what's worse? The fear of failure. Fear of failure stops you before you even start. It keeps you from chasing opportunities, from taking risks, from stepping outside your comfort zone. It convinces you to settle for less, to play it safe, to stay quiet when you should speak up. It paralyzes you with what if I fail? What if people laugh at me? What if I'm not good enough? But here's the truth, failure isn't the enemy. The real enemy is the fear that keeps you from trying at all. Because when you fail, you can learn, you can grow, you can try again, but if you never start, you'll never know what you were capable of. History is filled with people who failed again and again before they succeeded. Imagine if they had let fear stop them. Imagine if Edison had been too afraid to keep experimenting. Imagine if Michael Jordan had never picked up a basketball again after getting cut from his high school team. Imagine if J.K. Rowling had stopped submitting her manuscript after her first rejection. They failed, yes, but they weren't afraid to fail. And that's why they succeeded. So ask yourself, what's scarier, failing or never knowing what could have been? The next time fear whispers, what if you fail? Answer back, so what? I'll try again. Because failure is temporary. Regret lasts forever. Failure feels like the end. It feels like hitting a wall, like proof that you're not good enough. But what if I told you that failure isn't the end of your journey? What if I told you it's the beginning of something greater? Because here's the truth, your best self is waiting on the other side of failure. Think about a time when you struggled, when something didn't go as planned. Maybe it was an exam you failed, a goal you missed, a job you didn't get. At that moment, it felt like everything was falling apart. But looking back, wasn't that the moment that pushed you to grow? Wasn't that the experience that made you stronger, wiser, better? Failure isn't meant to break you, it's meant to shape you. It forces you to learn, to adapt, to push beyond your limits. Every challenge you overcome, every mistake you correct, every setback you rise from brings you closer to the person you are meant to become. No champion wins without losing first. No expert masters their craft without making mistakes. No great leader rises without stumbling along the way. The strongest, most successful, most fulfilled people aren't the ones who avoided failure. They're the ones who embraced it, learned from it, and kept going. So, when failure comes, don't see it as the end of the road. See it as a doorway. On the other side is the stronger, wiser, unstoppable version of you. Keep going, your best self is waiting.